our time zone. Today we are getting deep into MORARA Kebaso and McCOURE. So all of you have really had a lot of interaction with these people, if not in person, online. Now the reasons why you came to interact with these people is one, as activists. Now these are two young men who came up to challenge the current leadership in Kenya. And people really celebrated them. One rose in 2024, about June, and the other one earlier than that. Now the two men challenged each other, calling one another treacherous. What is the truth behind the two? Because at the end of the day, all of them have had to hang their boots. Is it out of frustrations from the government, the push and pull from citizens, demands from McCOURE, or threats from the government? Current are the times when people go for the stomachs rather than save any other person. Take an example of Raila Odinga. Raila Odinga was there for citizens. That's what he says. But when you come to Morocco says he was there for his own interest and that he's a selfish individual who was never directed to be a leader, and he never was interested in the leadership anyway. Where is the truth? Of course, we'll go digging deep into these matters, but will we get the truth? We can only analyze and look at what they did and where they are now. Now, currently, all of you know that neither Kasmuel nor MORARA are interested in Kenyan politics. As much as they are saying that when Kenyan demands they'll come back, they were self-appointed individuals. And we've heard or watched them fall back, just like the tortoise does, crawling back into fear. Is it fear or comfort? Now, one of the messages that came out recently from MORARA declared that he is now retiring from politics. Let's just look for the message he gave. Now, ladies and gentlemen, when you come to this platform, consider the topic of the discussion. Do consider also the fact that we are following the regulations of YouTube, community interactions. Of course, you can appreciate me, comment, but focus on the topic so that we are actually getting deep into the discussion. So guys, what do you feel about this hanging of the boots of both MORARA and Kasmuel? Let's begin with MORARA, for example. Lawrence Wathika, hi. How are you? So let's get to politics today. Give me a like as you come to the platform, please. I'll be really appreciative. And then we can proceed to other matters. Yeah, so thank you for that. I can see 4 more people. Please give me a like as you start to watch this. And let's keep hot the politics. You know, politics is part of us. As human beings, we are political. And there's no way you can just sit. We have to talk about these things. Of course, when you come here, I understand you saw the topic and you found it interesting. And of course, I would actually wish to see you giving comments. I am in Kenya, Lawrence Wathika. I don't know where you are from. Yeah, so let's get to the message that MORARA sent. Must it be Instagram? He sent a message to quit politics amidst the backlash of citizens. Thank you. I can see more people. Kindly subscribe if you've not done so. Give me a like and continue watching here and also giving your comments. I'm not a master of whatever I'm doing. I am only collecting information from here and there and trying to give my opinion into what I see. So thank you. Lawrence Wathika says from Kenya, which specific area maybe? Thank you for watching this, and you can give a contribution towards what I'm saying, like maybe your views. What do you think about the MORARA Kebaso, who came out as an activist and later Kiambu Massive. I once stayed in Kiambu around, you know, there's a small market just before Kiambu main town, Banana. Yeah, it's a very good area, though very cold. Cynthia Owino, I'm from Kenya, Nairobi. Thank you. Welcome to the house. Give me a like, Cynthia, and let's discuss into this. Now, guys, people came out saying McCOURE and MORARA are actually simply, selling out Kenyans, their projects, and many people did not believe it. Now, what do you say about this, Lawrence Wathika or Cynthia Owino, now that you're from Kenya? What do you think up to now? After MORARA came out claiming that unless Kenyans ask for him, he doesn't have to force himself into leadership. He claims that Kenyans were really pressuring him and giving a lot of negative information, defaming him. He also claims that at some point his life was threatened. Kasmuel says he's not answerable to anybody. So what do you think about these two people? Were they just playing politics projects? People wanted to benefit themselves, or what exactly were they? Now remember, when MORARA started this activism thing, he started just by unraveling the told projects that had not made it. We saw him travel to Embu. We saw him in different places, Kericho. We saw him all the way to Kilifi. We saw him in Nairobi, Thika Road, of course, and so many other places. And he took a process of just preaching, giving promises, false promise, just the same way the president did. So he would come up with a team, and he would be checking the project that have been a tall order or told projects, and then he would come talking about them. These are all political games. Lawrence tells us that. So MORARA must be playing politics on us, right? So that he's now seeking the demand from citizens and go back and maybe benefit himself. Is that what you mean, Lawrence Wathika? What about Owino, Cynthia? What do you think about this? Is this also a game? Do you think it's a political game, or what exactly was that? Because before we could blink, they are gone. And they're claiming to be now living a poshy life. Let me just look for this specific message that MORARA sent and maybe read it to you so that you get to see exactly what I'm talking about here. Of course, I had taken a picture of that message, and yesterday I tried to send it on my Facebook professional page. And I'm looking for it here. If you get it earlier, you can also present it. No worries, because this is what you do here in the Life Saga. Now, Life Saga is a YouTube platform where we're trying to unravel into politics, into matters of political leaders who are messing, into matters of police who are using extrajudicial force, the situations of murder with the hidden, the clarity is not very, open to us, and so many others. So Robert Prairie says, I'm Robert Otieno from Nairobi, and I think Lawrence is right, because this is political games and Kenyans are the pawns. Yeah, so Robert Perez, if you listen to MORARA, he's claiming that it's us voters, If you read the book known as the current book that students are doing at high school, that is The Samaritan by John Lara, you would actually understand that the blame to voters, MORARA started it at some point after going to so many projects. Then he said, I blame you. As far as you blame the president, you blame the leaders around, I am blaming you. However, at first he had been saying that I cannot blame any other leader apart from the president, because it's the president who oversees everything, The typical Samaritan whereby we are blaming Mosi, who is the mayor of Okay, Lawrence Wathika says, in Kenya now I don't see the need for political fames. Right. So it seems that we just have to wait. People vie for positions. And we let it be. Let's not think that there's a political, a person who is famous in politics and we are following and we are really clapping and we are supporting. Now, remember, when MORARA started, he did not have these vehicles, right? Yeah, Laurent Wathika says Kenya is now the Maracas. Of course, I was talking about that Maracas municipality. Maracas municipality, whereby we have the mayor at the top. And around him, are these greedy, selfish individuals who are angry for power. But they don't know how they'll get to this power. So they play politics, sometimes fighting the mayor, sometimes getting into indoor meetings, only for us to discover that there's no difference between the mayor and Ted. There is no difference between Ted and the judge. There's no difference between mayor and the opposition also, like, yeah, Ted and his team, Basdeo and the likes. So Maracas municipality is here with us. And that is why I always believe that John Lara is just a pen name. But the writer of that book is a typical Kenyan who understands the politics and how people play games. I don't know whether we'll find Nicole in the process, whether we'll find, the two kids with an app that will have to rescue our nation. I hope God will hear our prayers. So Lawrence Wathika says that Kenya is now Maracas municipality. I agree with him. I don't know what others think. Robert Perez, Owino, and others who are on board. What do you think about this? Because let's look at what these people were. Kasmuel McCOURE was the one person who came up in 2024. Just when the Gen Zs were being eliminated and the State House thing. And a lot of people were eliminated. You can't see their faces on the streets, but he was saved. And so when people began asking, are you a project? How comes you were safe and you went around talking? He was called for interviews, and all of us were celebrating. But later on, the saga of a project began unfolding. And of course, some of us did not believe it. We thought that these are just attacks. But currently, do you know where Kasmuel is? Do you know? If you know, please drop the comment in the comment section. Let's start with MORARA anyway. Let's start with MORARA. So I don't know. Maybe other people will be having different opinions, whether he's really talking about the right thing. Now let's start with the interview at Lynn Gogi. I'll be skipping through. And during that interview, he exposed that Ruto's government was losing a lot. He said that we are losing about 4 million to the workers of the president. And he said that he doesn't fear anything. He said that every man can die. Now, here he is today saying he has chosen to be a father and a husband. So I'm asking on this platform, because this is a political saga, what do you think about this? And of course, I've got some responses here. People saying political games, that Kenyans are pawns, and these political games are giving us, a wrong idea of what we want, a wrong idea of who activists are. Consider Boniface, for example. Consider somebody like Martha Karua. I don't know what you think about them, but let's focus on MORARA during that interview. I want you to listen keenly, ladies and gentlemen, to how MORARA expresses himself here. And I'll take you now to the recent interview before he had to hang his boats. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you realize these are two people. Personality, we did psychology, some of us. And even if you didn't do it, you can read between the lines. What is he trying to tell us? Let's start with this.
Nobody's getting out of this alive. William Ruto. So me, I don't care. Serikali hati wanitishie maisha ya nini? Wakwende huko. There's nothing they can do to me. If they kill me today, kesho mimi naimba na angels. We are the ones who have created this society where we have allowed people to steal from us and laugh at us and still call us and give us more money. Kuendelea kutuchezea akili. Kama wa Kenya, the quality of leaders will come from the quality of the population. The more quality the population, the better quality the leaders. And how How do we get a quality population? Civic education. So the reason I keep mentioning the president, people ask me, hata MPs wako corrupt, hata governors wako corrupt, hata senators wako corrupt. Sikatai. I'm not in denial. I know that they are corrupt. But I also know that the head of state and government is the president. Rais, tukipata tu president mwenye si corrupt, corruption Kenya inaisha by 50%.
So you believe Ruto is corrupt?
He is the very definition of corruption. Watu wa Kenya hamjambo. Hatujambo. Bas, mimi nimekuja hapa kwa Lin Ngugi. Nimekuja kwa sababu ya mambo ya stima na mambo ya barabara na mambo ya maji. Ni kweli si kweli?
That was it. If you remember, that was the interview that really shook, the country. And people were so happy with MORARA, supporting him even when the government or other people were coming up with the claims that MORARA was playing us, right?
Learning how to trade
if you are keen, you remember those times. Now, that is the time we heard about MORARA being a project, right? And of course, in Kenya, we understand when they call people project, these are people planted and they are paid when elections are almost forthcoming. And once they are paid, even if they run for opposition, they don't have an impact. The only impact they have is to ensure that that person they were fighting wins. Now, Kenyans, I've had here some responses telling me that this is just a game. So guys, what do you think? I really wish people would gather here and give me an insight, because these are things that Kenyans should know. This is our country. We have the right to know. How I wish that MORARA would be like Maverick, strongly defending what he started. In that video, you've just seen that MORARA said he does not fear death, that everybody will die. And for him, he's a religious person who will end up in heaven as long as he chooses the right. He also claimed that the president, the most corrupt, and of course that time he mentioned that we are paying the workers of the president. We are doing all to ensure that we support or finance his life. He even claimed that the family has doctors, personal doctors, each child. They are traveling from Kenya every time. He did a lot of, undressing of the president. And some people are happy. From that video, of course, there were so many comments. And people are like, MORARA go, MORARA go, MORARA go, supporting somebody who is racing. Now, the race we have not finished the race, because elections will be 2027. Anything to do with campaigns will be next year. Now, MORARA has hung his boats. He is no longer going into politics. He is not talking about the projects. If you remember very well, he stopped talking about this. In fact, this year we've not heard him. The last we heard of him was around December, when he was going to Meru, and then he came back. I think he went to Kericho. Those are the last times we heard about him. Let me just play some of the videos in the field. Here, he was in Laikipia, exposing how stalled projects were not working. Let's hear it.
This time I am at Naibor, and I'm here to see the Naibor Ilpolei Road. This is Laikipia County, Laikipia North constituency, and this contract was given to a contractor called Shibili Enterprises. Alipewa hii contract ya kujenga hii barabara ya Naibor to Ilpolei at a cost of 596 million. That's about 600 million. And he was supposed to complete it after 2 years. So ilikuwa inafaa iishe by 2023 last year.
So that is Naibor. Now let's look at the other for Nyeri.
Aduanyeri Muriega. Yeta kwa Morara Kebaso, Deha Marwa Market. Yet. Oga Terere. These are markets. Hii ni Marwa.
Esi Marwa.
Hii ni Marwa Market.
Hii ni Karachi.
Hii ni Marwa Market hapa Gateto. What? Come I show you the market.
Yeah. So he would announce, and then he would go showing the project, and people would really see the irony of leadership. Right? Let's see another example.
2, 3, 4, 5. Market. Wameunda market kama parking. Wameunda market kama parking.
So that's what he would exactly do. Let's look at the other. Now, after, ladies and gentlemen, you understand that after going to so many projects, people came out and said, he's a fraud. You remember? They said MORARA Kebaso is a fraud. And he came out saying he's not a fraud. Why? The citizens had contributed towards buying the cars, or rather the vehicles he was using to travel around the country. If I may just show the vehicles. And before that even, and in fact, all of you know those vehicles. Yeah. And so people came out saying he is a fraud. I may not get the video, but all of you are in Kenya. Lawrence Wathika says, for me, I would advise them to corrupt and to invest in Kenya and create more employment rather than investing abroad. Yeah, so guys, McCOURE has traveled abroad, for your information. What if he's going to invest? As far as they're saying that he goes for a kind of meeting, what if he's going to invest elsewhere? So Lawrence feels that they may be corrupt because he feels like we can't control this. They have the resources in their hands, they have power in their hands. But what if they stole and then invested here? Now remember the aspect of recent saga that is not even called a cool down of the IG buying things from outside. And it's not only him. There are a lot of leaders who are buying items from outside. When they travel to go to USA, they travel to go to Arabic countries. Don't think they're just going for tours. They're going to invest. Of course, we've heard a lot of about our president investing in Rwanda and other places where there are parks of land and all that. Whatever it happens, whoever whistleblowers, in the book, The Samaritan, when Bembe bought the university land, all people are not aware. Yeah? If you look at the Ronde Gate affair, the saga around Jaden, not everybody was aware also. When Basdeo decided to have that project in the Ronde Gate affair, getting some shares from that project of the orchard farm, not everybody was aware. So that is why I tell you that writer, John Lara, is actually talking about our system. Now look at this part when MORARA has just been called a fraud. I remember that very well.
A 38-year-old lawyer and businessman has ignited the internet after his near-perfect imitations of President William Ruto started going viral. Kebaso, who was virtually unknown just a few months ago, has quickly become the internet's darling. He has in the past months rattled state agents through his campaign of questioning stalled national government projects and demanding accountability for wasted public resources. Saturday, he was on a tour of Embu County. Kebaso said he was here to expose stalled projects. He addressed a massive crowd in one of Embu's streets.
Kwa sababu mnajua Embu ni crime scene. Niko na mabarabara 5 za hapa Embu zenye nafaa kutembelea. Moja ni ile ring road yenye tayari ishalipwa pesa yote 512 million. Lazima nifike huko nifanye ukaguzi wa kina. Hapo mahali nimeshika nitaendelea kufinya. Nitafinya.
So guys, that is the time when MORARA was really trending and he was a darling. He was a darling to many. But there were still some questions. People raising questions about his personality, his place, his identity. Is he really going to save Kenya? That was the question. After Lynn Gogi's show where he had said, I'm the savior. And the Bible says, if I have a mission, I must accomplish it. The way we use the Bible in Kenya. Guys, it really sets a lot of people to even be off church. Politicians tend to use the Bible a lot. Why? They know that you cannot question the Bible. And they know that when you come with the Bible, you can even colonize the minds of the Africans, because that is how we were colonized, right? You know very well that the missionaries came. After the missionaries, now we had the colonizers coming. So even in current, we are being colonized by the Bible. Remember the time the president was vying for the post? Kasongo mwenyewe. Kasongo went around with the wife. And the wife had even to turn the dirty river into a clean one. Miracles done only by Jesus. She went around churches contributing a lot. And the justification was that if I give to the church, why not? It's my money. She claimed that, in fact, it was not her talking, but the president saying, if I give to the church, what is the problem? Even other people give. And what about theirs? Where are they giving their money? Now, currently, you know very well, even at some point, the president has been going around and giving money. However, one of the churches, the Catholic Church, rejected, and there was a great war. Even currently, there is still that war. So, the issue is, people have studied clearly politics, and they understand, I can start a war, and once the war now is at the climax, I come down, so that I see what citizens will do. And maybe I'll have been bought. So what? So I was just looking for this specific message. Let me read for you. Let me read for you that message from MORARA. I don't know. Has he been bought by the government or the opposition? Yeah? Because he launched a manifesto some weeks ago. He launched the manifesto. We saw him with the Gachagua. So what exactly was he launching? You know, those are the questions I keep asking. Whom was he launching for? Why should you launch a manifesto then quit politics? Let me just read that message to you guys before I can continue delving deep into it. Why is this message coming as pieces? I wanted the entire message. I heard it yesterday. I heard this message yesterday. I didn't want to read it in pieces. In fact, it came from MORARA Kebasu's platform, right? Jamaa wa masuti na projects. Let's look at this. The message was full from MORARA. And I really posted that message somewhere. Yeah, so guys, continue putting your views here. Continue putting your views here. Because, you know, when such things happen, it's a lesson to us. We can't ignore. We have to keep following it so that we say, you know, I've looked at people like Okia Mtata. I've looked at people like Babu and others, you know, who have been on the trail and they have never said they are quitting because they want their freedom. They are afraid of something. Yeah. And, you know, that celebration of I'm now free. I can live my life. I can eat my food. Guys, that one was too much now. That one was just too much. Let me look at this. And remember yesterday there were these demonstrations. A lot of people possibly have been injured. Others, they have faced a life that is not normal anymore. So let me read here. Yeah, this is the message. I wanted you to read this, right? Now let's read together this message. I hope you're seeing it, right? Yeah, I wanted to see it as clear as possible, though it came from MORARA, right? What did he say? I finally escaped politics. I finally escaped. Even the word escaped, what does it mean? Literally running in a kind of treachery or trickster or sly way. I finally escaped politics. I can now live my life. I can now live my life. So whose life was he living, guys? Ladies and gentlemen, what kind of life was he living? Now he's telling us, I can now live my life. do my biz, make my moolah, travel the world, see my friends, visit a bar and not worry about pictures. And that takes me to this. You know, Morara said that he does not drink. Now, why should he visit a bar and not worry about pictures? And he says, the decision... Hey, okay, let's go on. What did he say more? You know, if you read all his mail, he said that he has now to enjoy his life, right? Yeah, I won't keep looking for that message because it will waste my time, but you can look for it and get it from Morara Kebaso. I don't know whether it was Facebook or somewhere. If you can get it, you can remind me as I go on with this. You can remind me. But in that message, he was trying to claim that his life was at risk and he had to choose between being a father, sorry, choose between being a father and a politician. Now he just started, guys, and you remember he said that even in his family, though his grandfather was almost killed, he said he wouldn't, yeah. And here he said, I'm free, nobody can judge me if I dance the wrong way or smile the wrong way. I don't need security. And then we are just like, are you sure? Why did you recently launch your manifesto? Now this takes me to the time when at some point he went to church, Commander's Church, yeah? And when he talked about he's going to run for president, the commander told him, you are too young, you don't even have flesh, right? I don't know whether you remember that. Please, you would have closed the door. That music will become a copyright in my video. Yeah, so guys, or ladies and gentlemen, when he was told he was project, when he was called a fraud, of course he did a lot of defense of himself. And in one interview, this is what Morara Kebaso said.
That you came to see, nothing has ever been done. The hospital that you came to see, at least we are now seeing some movement. So it means people are alert and they are now watching.
What's your motivation?
Well, I'm driven by the passion for positive change, and I want positive change to happen during my lifetime. I don't just want it to happen in the future. I would like to see change happen during the time when I'm alive, strong, and when I can enjoy it, and when my children can enjoy it. Therefore, it's a push for change. It's not easy because some of the problems that we have in this country, they are 60-year-old colonial problems. You may not resolve them in a day, but one step in the right direction.
Sorry. This are the words.
Is it the issue?
Yeah.
Was the car the issue?
Not the car, it's the
Because
disruption.
maybe, yeah, but what caused the
Caused by the
disruption?
car, yes.
It's the car, right? If Morara had walked in to this demonstration, would it have had the same kind of impact?
I don't think it would have.
Morara walked into Bomas during the...
Acknowledging that leadership is important.
How do you protect that deplatforming and from, again, enemies of progress? We have...
Now that is an interview.
Concerns that you
Now
may
let's
be
see
a
here.
project. Yes, yourself and even Kazma.
Let me spare that one for Kasmuel. We are just coming to it. So Morara Kebaso even came up 1 month ago. Yeah, you know, he had to critique the opposition leader for having joined the government, that he has messed and now whistleblowing will stop. And that this is what messes the leadership of the country. Now for him to lay down his boots, hasn't he done the same? And he has just done so a day before the demonstration. That is what he did, right? So has he been bought by the opposition or the government? That's our question. Now remember, just after he was really running into here and there, claims came that he has not paid KRA tax for his businesses. Remember, he runs businesses, safaris. He has several outlets for timber and furniture and so many other businesses. He came out claiming that he is not particularly relying on Kenyan citizens to support his movement down and up to unravel the tolled project. So here is what he said.
Will never ever be left to politicians to manage. It is the security sector.
Has Morara Kibaso beaten off more than he can chew? He does not disrupt President Ruto's political ambitions. Yuko jana alikuwa kwa streets.
Anaongeanga
Jana alikuwa kwa streets.
mbona aliondokea wakati ule mwingine?
Now remember,
Criticizing him
Waringi.
alitoka huko na kazunguka huko na wakashikwa, alafu akadisappear akaenda. What happened?
So why does
pesa ijui wewe ni nani?
Morara will be called to the negotiation?
Morara atakula pesa na hapa.
He will betray his own people.
Morara will be given a car, will be given everything, all manner of things, atapatiwa vitu mzuri. Alafu watamupropel, wamwache aende, kisha wa withdraw hizo vitu.
Anguke chini.
Hata anguka, atakuja kwao kubeg.
You hear?
Kuja kwao kubeg, atawaambia sasa, this is what you'll be doing.
So in this system,
wanawekanga mtu pumzi. Kisha wanakudeflate.
Now guys, when you listen to Ariungi, he's a former Mungiki member. And he was supported by the government from what he tells us. Those are not my tales. And they inflated a lot of air until this group or force of Mungiki, you remember there are times we are really scared about Nairobi. They went controlling everything, including rental houses in Nairobi, businesses. Then it came a time, many of them were killed. So Ndura Waringi says clearly that Morara will be called, will be supported, given vehicles, a good life and all that. And then later they'll call him and say that we want you to do this. So they inflate, then they deflate. Now guys, if I may ask, do you think this is what has happened to Morara and Kasmur? Now at one time, Morara and Kasmur met for an interview. Before I get to that, I must finish about Morara first so that I don't mix up stories. So, Morara, of course, just few weeks before, what did he say? Let's listen to
the
this.
government that either do not exist or have since stalled, so than even government. The lesson that I can learn from it is never to attend a function where I'm not invited.
Yeah, remember this was after the bombers.
Tragedy struck again, this time in Narok, where he sought to hold a parallel Mashujaa Day celebration on the 20th of October 2024. Two members of my team walifikiwa na hao wahuni. They sustained a lot of injuries. One, she's called Shiko. The goons even threatened to rape her, of which I don't think rape is something that happens in the Maasai culture. There's also another gentleman who is a research assistant here in my office who was hurt on the head. Personally, I was hidden by a Maasai family. Walinificha kwa nyumba. Wakachukua ile tandarua ya kuandika mahindi wakafunika gari. The self-proclaimed civic educator has also been arrested 2 times, forced to spend nights in cold police cells, but led the candidature of Kalonzo Musyoka. But he also has a lot to tell us, just like Matiang'i. What is this that he wants to do for the country that he did not do when he was vice president? Why was it difficult for him to do it when he was vice president? His methods have, however, been... So fine leaders are justified to steal from the public. Justified. Kuibia wananchi. Kwa sababu anasema was even confronted by a section of the activists.
Yeah. So remember, activists had to confront Morara because they are wondering, how is he going to vie for a presidential seat? How is he going to unseat the President Ruto in 2027? And of course, we saw the, hey, there is eaten by vampires. So, of course, Morara has played something that was quite new, because people are like, the way he's now talking about the failed projects is a different approach. However, now, citizens are left at loggerheads. Now, let's get to Kashmir. Kashmir is one person that came up in the limelight just during the Gen Z demonstration. Now, let's dive into how Kashmir went out. He was a hero, but then people feel that they were sold out. Let's start from somewhere.
Kashmir McCOURE was once seen as the voice of a frustrated generation.
Yeah, so here he was really speaking for the frustrated generation, the Gen Z, you know, very vocal, speaking in one sitting after the other, holding the horn, you know. People even called him Martin Luther, right? And they trusted that he was the king that was now going to create change in Kenya, because he was talking with such confidence. People even referred to his past in high school, Maseno, and he went around. He was called for a lot of interviews, right? And people trusted that he had done it. But at some point, when he was seen close to the president, when he was seen putting on the ODM hat, people began to doubt him. That is Kenya for us. Remember this? That was at Kajiado, right? Then Gilbert Trono, just 3 weeks ago, said he is a sellout, a traitor. And people are still defending him, but others said he's a traitor, right? Now, why was he labeled a traitor? People began to see his lifestyle. He has changed, and he was no longer talking against the politics of Kenya, if you can remember. And at one point, McCOURE stood out and said this. Let me just get it. There's a part whereby he blamed Kenyans. Is it 11 months ago or 8?
Articulates issues like a real leader. Many don't throwing the happened. His musical talent enabled him to play at the engaged.
Let me see. I'm just looking for that time where he blasted Kenyans. I remember him talking very rudely, telling them that they didn't choose him, and so he wouldn't go for anyone. He was not sent by anyone, so yeah, he said you cannot say we are being dictatorial, yet we are the ones being disfranchised. This is a classic case of victim blaming by those in power. That time he was still blaming the government, but reasoned. He even said that they did not want to overthrow the government in one of the meetings, when he was being asked why the Gen Zs had to go to the State House.
Were you looking to overthrow the government
Let's see.
during the protest?
Yeah.
We were not looking to overthrow the government during the protests. We were looking to replace dysfunctional systems. Accusing us of trying to overthrow a government it just shows you where the country sits. You know, Professor Kindiki, even no offense, going by the pitch of his voice, he sounds like a flute. A flute, if you think about it musically, is a melodic instrument. It's supposed to have only one note. It cannot produce multiple notes at the same time. Remember, this is the same professor who said, who's now accusing us. His president said that as far as he's concerned, there are no people who are missing. But there are no people who died from a protest. Suddenly, he showed up with a particular list. Now, earlier he said, remember when he was grilled earlier before
Yeah, so that is one of the interviews whereby he was trying to prove that they are not agonizing the government, but they are organizing it, right? And that whatever they did was not an attempt to have a coup, but to just set the functional systems. Now, currently, then I ask myself, has he set the systems right? Has he agonized or organized? Has he gone for self-interest? And of course, Kasmuel is very rude. At one point in an interview with MORARA, there's something he said here. Let me just get to it. Here it is. Is it?
Will come to you, but for you,
yeah, here.
Are you one? It's so simple. You're just saying you're laughing because you can't answer.
Not because I can't answer. It's because it's ridiculous.
Who's funding?
It's completely ridiculous. It is well known that I'm the biggest advocate in this country for public fundraising. In fact, I've earned myself a name as a beggar. People even say, tubebane bega kwa bega. Alright? So I've already earned a nickname for advocating for public fundraising. So when somebody asks, who funds me? It is them. The one who is asking who funds me is the one who funds me. And I believe that is the future of politics. Raising funds from the public. Because otherwise, as long as we allow politicians to steal our public funds and use it in campaign, new leaders will never emerge. And leaders of integrity will never emerge because they'll never be able to compete with that kind of...
Of course, that interview I was looking for was a MORARA call with Kashmir, and they had a dire conflict. They had a conflict in during that interview. I don't know why I can't see it. I had looked for it and it was somewhere. It doesn't seem to be this.
11 Labs conversational aim.
Yeah, so in that interview, if you really watched, you saw a confrontation between MORARA and Kashmir. Yeah? Let me just check again because it was here. So they were pointing fingers at each other. Somewhere here.
Dishonest. You're not being a man of integrity.
Here.
The first time I am seen with, for example, President William Ruto, you were the first person to cry on your social media page and say, "Oh, Kasmuel, oh my." I remember I saw it. It was a lamentation. It was like a jilted lover. Yeah, let me just. Oh, no. Let me now talk about like.
Okay, now.
I've been dealing with so many politicians. It's so many, but he went on a whole tirade and said, "Are these not the same people who killed us? Why are you dining with them? Kama ingekuwa biashara si ungetuambia tukuchangie." And then now you want to tell us that it is a transformative idea. You suddenly have this rather transformative idea that meeting Rigathi Gachagua is part of the change. And he sits down and he tells us they are consulting on how to sort corruption. They are consulting on how to sort youth unemployment. And remember, Rigathi Gachagua did not say a damn thing. And this is the thing where we have to be entirely honest. And if we're going to use a scale of morality, and this is back to the People's Court, if we are going to use a scale of morality, let it be just. Because now you hear MORARA, he's making my work so easy because he's starting to say the things that I have been saying. But he has been calling me a briefcase carrier. He has been saying, oh, me joining the Right Honorable Raila Odinga was a wrong decision. Now he comes and he tells us that he's joining Rigathi because Rigathi has 4 million, a voter block of 4 million. What prevents me from making this argument that Raila Amolo Odinga's voter base remains largely untouched because he did not get the Mlima votes? Then, let's say William Samoei Ruto has lost Mlima. If I combine these two, if you now want to talk about numbers,
Who has more numbers?
And I hope this is response to his question.
It is because you asked a very direct question about the thing. And this is why I keep on saying that we have to come to the table of equity equitably. And I go ahead and say the reason why I also castigate this thing, we have to be absolutely fair that we cannot think that that Rigathi Gachagua will be our savior while you're joining a man who immediately after your meeting, the next thing he says the next day is that Gema will rule Kenya for 100 years. But you want to tell me that you have a problem with identity politics. Now, going back to this to his question.
Yeah, so guys, that was an interview that did not really go well.
And I can bet on it that the appointed director of digital, Dennis Itumbi, runs a group of about 20 youth who each of them have about 100 accounts on social media.
And I think here, Morara, I will say that you're being dishonest. You're not being a man of integrity.
So guys, that discussion went on and on, right?
Welcome back. Gospel
Singing every
And of course, there was a lot of critique about the stand, or rather, the story of standing in to fight for the position of Kenyan, right? We did not know actually whether these were fighting for us or for themselves. And now let's finally get to the hanging of the boots by MORARA in the interview that was recently held. Just briefly. Briefly. This is it. Here it is. Let's look at it briefly.
Says the cost of activism had finally become the way most Kenyan vitungu machozi ni mingi, and sometimes you can't stay. You have to leave kidogo pigwe na hewa. He says he did not leave because he was defeated by corruption. He left because of what came with it, a well-orchestrated war on his credibility. I knew that at some point, corruption will fight back. But what gave me confidence to keep going is that I knew that the Kenyans have my back. And that if and when corruption fights back, they will, have my back. But I was sadly mistaken because I didn't factor in misinformation, disinformation.
Yes, of course, guys, you've just heard MORARA saying that.
Trust in you, don't insist in governing them. You can't govern people by force. You can only govern people by choice. But make no mistake.
Yeah. So MORARA is claiming here that he has decided to quit because even though the government was fighting him, he would have gone on if Kenyans were still backing him. But for him, he feels Kenyans have backed down, so he also backs down. Let me just...
So, kuna story moja ile got MORARA bullied, like online. He is customary that it was not judgment headline, but not was heavy with
yeah. So Kenyans, at some point on Standard, if you check out the Standard of June 2025, this is what you'll see. For a long time, Raila Odinga stood out as the voice of common Kenyan. Yeah, so for a long time, Raila Odinga stood out as the voice of the common Kenyan in the face of repressive governments. So, it was no surprise that during the height of the last year's Gen Z protests, the video of a young woman asking for former PM to step aside so that the new generation could hold the government accountable went viral. The cost was heavy, with several Gen Z's protesters killed or maimed. But the real shock came when Raila quickly struck a deal with President William Ruto, a move widely seen as a betrayal to the public. Cause of good governance he had championed for decades. Today, although the youth continue to push for change, many feel put down. They see Raila as a betrayer of their dream. And of course, the picture is Gen Z, Kasmuer behind Raila. Of course, that was something last year, right? Just trying to justify that when somebody collaborates with the government, then they are betraying. Now, I think you've seen clearly that Kasmuer had to collaborate with Raila. On the other hand, MORARA had to collaborate with Gachagua. And we'll be going to that discussion very soon. So let's see. Here is another video trying to tell us why MORARA had to quit. They are not telling us why Kasmuer had to quit. Right?
Yeah, but it's getting better.
How did you acquire this injury?
I went for public participation, or a semblance of public participation.
Yes.
Hilo lipewa kiti.
In the shadows of Kenya's political landscape,
So
a
that
shocking
one.
betrayal has just unfolded. Just 48 hours before the most crucial protest in Kenya's recent history. Does it cost to buy a revolution?
Hey, kama ingekuwa ni wewe mwenyewe umejisimamia kivyako sawa. Lakini umechanga.
Yeah, so guys, remember, MORARA had been raising funds from citizens. From the many videos you've seen, MORARA was relying on citizens. He said the citizens were backing him up. They have really invested in him, if you can look at that. Now, the move he has taken, don't you think many think is a treacherous move? They had chosen him to be there. Now, whom is he claiming that was not standing for him? Of course, when you're standing as an activist, you don't expect that everyone will be backing you up. There are some who will be backing you up, and there are some who will not. So why could he stand with these few that were with him? Yeah, that is the question. What about Kasmuer? Why is he quiet? Yeah, so these are discussions we'll continue to hold because they cannot have an end. Now let's just take some brief moment before we get to another video that I had set, though I'll move it ahead, about Matiang. Bye bye for now. I think I want to end this live.